Welcome back to Gear Z. My name is Ving and this is the Sim Racing Podcast. And today we have Ash Vanderlei. I'm really proud of having Ash with us, and from all the talk that we're gonna have exploring how she started exploring the main script that we had for this episode, that was how to empower more the female voices in sim racing and how we can make easy to accept them more on the community, that sometimes communities can be toxic. So it's quite really good to have her and to understand how, for example, I can break my barriers too, and accept the negativity that sometimes come through the community too on my case. So it's really nice to have her here, more because probably if the 1% that know Ash Vanderlei is content creator. She worked already with the GT Fanatec, she worked with the Red Bull, she's been doing such amazing job on the last years. She's based on America, but she has some heritage from Europe. I don't want to say wrong, but I think from Poland, if I'm correct. And she is amazing on the content. I think she is a voice for the new generation in terms of Instagram and in terms of what she brings to the table. Her content is always very informative, very entertainment, a lot of fun facts, and she, for example, is, I think, one of the faces for to bring new life from Europe to America in terms of IndyCar and NASCAR. I think what she does is really, really good. To start, I will waffle a little bit and talk about what is my take and what we didn't talk with Ash and what we forgot to talk, because sometimes I forgot my stuff, as you guys can imagine. But before, let me remember to leave on the comments what is your take about how we can empower more and bring more diversity to sim racing. But please be cordial and respectful to everyone on the chat. Everyone is entitled to have different opinions, and even if you don't like it, just leave the opinion like let's be, but please be respectful to everyone. So when it comes to sim racing, is no point we discussed why is no more females. What we need to discuss is why exist barriers. That is the main point. We don't need to point why it don't exist because people are ABC. No, we just have to break that barriers and know what we can bring more, because sim racing is a small little hobby and small little niche, and I think more people come with different opinions, more variety gonna have, and that variety will, as we see, will bring more deals, better companies, more games, more. It's better for everyone. So it's no point we go on why this exists and why this does not exist. So let me just read in here, and first of all, we can always see why sim racing don't have more females, and I think that comes a little bit from the social part, as Ash going to talk about. She's going to talk about something that is really crucial, but I will bring other factors from the society that probably we forgot to mention. And one of them is, for example, story from family. As she used it, I will use too. One of them is why women don't drive more on daily basis. And I will remember one thing that was always common was my mom go to pick up my father, or go with my father somewhere, will be always my father drive. And when she go pick up him at work, she will go out from the driver position to the passenger for my father take the car back to home. Sometimes the drive will be from 5 to 10 minutes, and that 5 to 10 minutes sometimes is time on the final of a year. 10 minutes every twice a day, so 20 minutes will take time that my mother will not practice and driving more. And of course, she after creates some types of I'll say fears. She will not drive on motorways because she was afraid. Soon as she break that boundaries, now she drive everywhere, and sometimes she drive from the main city to the capital of Portugal. So she's doing everything. And now I realize that with these small attitudes we are blocking. I was blocking, and my father was blocking my mom from driving a little bit more, and that happened even with my sister. So these small things, we don't see it so crucial until we start thinking about it, and as soon as we start thinking about it, we see that we do it that. And for example, we can pick up, as I want to give the example of football on the podcast a little bit more when we talk with Ash, is football, female football just is getting there and is getting very entertainment, because we start accepting first of all, without crucified, and of course we are giving the chances for they play with more and more people play, more the training, more the evolution becomes, and we're gonna arrive a time that I think we're gonna have probably a World Cup mix, with, like I say, six males on one side, and another side five females, or six females from one other side, and vice versa. So we never know. Probably we're gonna happen to bring more diversity to the football, and I think as soon as we start playing or we start doing with bigger challenge, we're gonna evolve, and is why we do it in games. Remember that probably as we have hours, days, months and summer of playing, so we are already developing our quality as a gamers. And sometimes when they come and they are not fast enough on the first week, on the second week, just give time, because the same time that a lot of us have waiting for our friends to develop that, and probably my friends waiting for me to develop my skills, we have to do it the same way to girls, and we need to empower them on sim racing, because they have a different point of view, and believe me, that different points of view are really important. Everyone sees it on a different way, and in terms of sim racing, we have so many good content creators, or so many good streamers that they have a different way of approaching sim racing and different way of driving, and it's quite funny because we learn a lot with them. I can leave a couple of names as probably Marianne Bale, Natalie Decker, Emily Jones, and of course Ash Vanderlei. So a lot of them are really, really good, and just given a time and stop having barriers, and please bring more females to sim racing, as you need a little bit the touch of females on sim racing, because they have a different way of see everything, and sometimes, or a lot of times, is better than us. So stop the toxicity and bring more females to sim racing. And let's stop waffle a little bit about it, and let's bring Ash to the podcast. Thank you so much for being with me, Ash. Let me introduce you to the people probably that don't know you. I think going to be just 1% of the people that follow me that probably don't gonna know who you are, because on these days you are a little bit everywhere. But introduce yourself, please.
Sure. I'm Ash Vandelay. I am a motorsport content creator or influencer, whatever word we'd like to use. I like to say content because I do educational videos on motorsport, whether it's
Yeah.
for new folks getting into motorsport, so just defining what a GT3 is, something as simple as that. And I also work with NASCAR, GT World Challenge America, and Red Bull Racing to produce content for them, host race watch alongs and news recaps of the races on the weekends, and just kind of I'm just interested in getting more people into motorsport, and as well as advocating for women in motorsport and sim racing.
Yeah, that's part of our script for today. I think is important. We talk about the power of the female on motorsport, and how we been so put down from the last years, and I think the environment that we are around that. And now talking about the Red Bull, how was that? How grateful was going to Red Bull?
Yeah, it's interesting. So the Red Bull, if you think about Red Bull as a company, they do with their athletes and content, they do such an incredible job. I mean, they're always doing
Exactly.
something different, out of the box, wacky, wild, and everyone's always watching their videos. So it's cool to be part of not only just the racing family, which I mean, I love motorsports, so happy, but also be part of that content family and
Okay.
just the athlete family. So yeah, they reached out. They asked if I was interested in joining, and I think they're one of the few. I believe Williams has some ambassadors that they're working with, Aston Martin, McLaren, but they're really focused on the esports side of things, like
Yep.
the Formula One
Yeah,
game,
I
F1
agree.
23. And Red Bull's really focus on both. Don't get me wrong; they also have their esports drivers, of course, um, and but I think Red Bull's one of the few who has like content creators. You have myself, currently Dirk Chocolate and Pondon, great guys who we all have like different strengths and focuses that we love to do with our content, whether it's the sim racing side or interviews or behind the scenes stuff. So it's been very cool to work with them and get like kind of behind the scenes look at how everything works. My interviews with Red Bull staff has been really cool because motorsports is a team sport. We only see the driver, usually maybe the team principal, some folks in the paddock. But I mean, everyone behind the scenes that you don't see back in the factory. It's been really cool to kind of meet them, talk to them, share their stories and things like that.
That's interesting. It's important you talk about that what Red Bull has done with different content creators, not going only with one way. Because
Mhm.
you, for example, talking about dark chocolate, it's completely different, different ways of approach, different ways of communicate. So it's quite funny. Or when you guys do your videos are completely different, but then in the final of the day, you see that it's a Red Bull video. So it's really nice to see that part. And ESL R1 in Munich, all that happened.
Oh gosh, I think when they first started streaming in the beginning of the year, I mean, I was just in the chat because for sim racing, nothing like that has really happened or doesn't happen
No.
often. You see, so I come from like the Call of Duty viewer experience, and
Hmm.
those are League of Legends. Everyone watches those, and it's just like a huge arena. There's always people. CS:GO. We're all used to for like the first person shooter games. Everyone's used to the big audience, but for some reason, I don't think we've ever, from time to time, like invited everyone in, had a big arena, had a big show, made it a big deal, had host on stage. So I've kind of been watching from the beginning. I thought that was really cool what they were trying to do. And yeah, I think because I participated a lot, I was just in the chat a lot. They asked if I'd be interested in being the pit lane reporter, interviewing the drivers after the races and getting the stories in between and things like that. So I said yes. I mean, Munich's great. I mean, easy to get to Germany, not too shabby, and it was cool to see all the sim racers that I'm so used to watching online or following on social media. So that was a really cool experience to see how much they kind of cared into showing sim racing in a different light and kind of gaining people's attention. I know there's still some hiccups when it comes to getting a bigger audience for sim racing. I think there's a high barrier to entry, not just for sim racing. We know it's expensive, but also for watching. If you join in the middle of the race and you're not sure what's going on or what a balance of performance is, I understand that might be a little bit difficult, but I think they're trying with people in the chat answering questions and just trying to make it a big something interesting to watch, and then we'll get you in the door once you start watching.
No, I agree with you when you're talking about it's different when you look for a sim racing watch along or you look for a
Yeah,
motorsport. It's completely different. And I think when sim racing try to emulate a race like 24 hours, for example, I think people just see the first 20 minutes when going to be the chaos, when
yeah,
something going to happen, and after the last minutes. And I think with ESLR one was completely different because the races was emotive and the way that they make that championship was a no ending. So we was already expecting that James Baldwin will win, and suddenly everything changed. You're gonna have more three races. So even for you guys that are talking about the races that isn't emotive, it's completely different from what we are used to go. That is just one race and that's it. I think it was
yeah.
completely different. Was new. I think was the I say it's different. And even now when they went to Riyadh was again 3 days. That was always really good to ever watch along on the side and different people because on Munich you have other content creators there, and everyone was giving their different feedbacks, different races, different persons talking. So I think it was really nice, and I think they are going on a good path. But yeah, still needs a little bit to evolve. As you say, something there that we need to change to captivate more people. But what do you think is missing on that captivating? What do we need to do to bring more people to the watch longs?
That's a great question. It's again when you watch a Call of Duty. I'm just gonna say Call of Duty. It's the one I know.
Yeah, I
It's
don't know.
the
It's
best.
it's 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 it's, it's
It's
true. It's Call of
easy.
Duty. It's Dota. It's League of
Yeah.
Legends. Is what it is.
When you just watch Call of Duty, you understand the score is 5-3. The maps like as soon you can log in the middle of any match at any time and understand what's happening. You
Yeah.
have to shoot the other team, murder all that, whatever the map is. You just have to win the map, and that is pretty easy to explain for someone who's never watched Call of Duty. I like to use my parents for an example because my parents still don't know
Okay.
what Twitch is. You know how parents are with technology and everything. So if I sat my
I know.
dad down
I know.
or my mother down and I was like, "This is Call of Duty. They have to capture the flag. They have to search." Plant a bomb for search and destroy. They have to destroy the other, kill the other team. My mom would be like, "Okay, like I understand. I'm not going to enjoy it, but I understand this very easily." If I put my mom in front of a sim race, I said, okay, now they're driving different cars, but there's something called the balance of performance. And like some people think that's not fair, what's going on, but then you have these drivers who they're not equal equipment. And kind of explaining, especially if it's like a multi-class race and a 24
Mhm.
hour, then you have to explain what a GT3 is, a GTP, and you're like, they're first in their class, but they're not first in the race. And it's 18 hours, but we got a lot. We've got 6 hours left, and anything can happen. Um, Anything can go wrong technically. Someone can crash out, someone misses an apex. That's just like a little harder, even for real life racing, for folks to explain,
Yeah,
which is where I think the educational piece comes in. Because I think a lot of sim racing, when I started, a lot of folks were just really good naturally, or they've just been sim racing for a long time. If you think about all the content creators, and it's almost intimidating, and sometimes it could be a little toxic. Sure, there's people that come in and they're like, "You're terrible at driving," and I was like, "I'm having a good time, and I'm learning, and that's okay. Like, I don't have to be
yeah,
good at
exactly.
everything, which is fine, but I'm also learning how to do this." And there's,
And then the
I've,
immersion, the fun.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Sure, it'd be nice to win, but it's also I'm hanging out with my community, or I'm racing with
Mhm.
my friends in Discord, and some of us are going to have a good race, some of us are going to have a bad race. Like, it just happens. Like, statistically, it's gonna be okay, and we've all needed to learn something at some point. So sure, I'm a little bit older, and I haven't sim raced for ever since the past right growing up. So I have a little bit more to learn, a little bit faster, like things I have to do to catch up. But I think it's getting that educational piece out and being like, hey, this is what this is. Because everyone plays Call of Duty, because that's easy to pick up. So I think the educational aspect of sim racing and motorsports, just to get people to understand what's going on, is a big key to it, because it seems like we kind of skip a lot of steps in assuming what the viewer knows, especially the casual viewer.
Yeah. Yeah, but you're talking about something is if we think about, for example, when I was a kid, was Counter Strike before Call
Mhm.
of Duty being famous. The evolution on the games exists, but on that type of games, the evolution is quite more graphic, or the type of guns or whatever you're going to use. So in terms of sim racing, the evolution been very very big and quite quite big on these last 2 years. 3 years ago when I get a Trustmaster was for the price was one of the best things. Now if you get a Trustmaster from the same price, you are getting robbed because don't go so near what Fanatec is delivering for half of
Right.
the price. So and the evolution on the games is completely different. I used to play Gran Turismo 2. Now when I go play Gran Turismo 2, I can't play because the car's turning on different ways. So it's such an evolution. It's different games if you're comparing with the Counter Strikes with albums. But let me ask you about sim racing, about all your point of view about sim
Yeah.
racing and the future. In terms of sim
Oh,
racing, what is? Oh, sorry,
sorry.
no, it's okay. In terms of sim racing, what is your point of view? What you think about the evolution?
Sure. Gosh, that's a hard question, because I think we obviously want to see more people sim race. It's just it's fun, and it's
Yeah,
as close as I'm ever going to get to ever being in a GT3 car. Right? Like, I'm never going to
me,
race in one.
me neither. Never.
Um, and I know iRacing has the Mercedes W14, W13. I forget
Yes,
which
yeah.
one.
I think they have the last four versions of the
Oh, great.
Mercedes F1.
So that's the
Yeah,
closest I'm going to get to driving a Formula One car at Laguna Seca for fun, and then throwing
exactly.
it through the corkscrew. So I think it's fun, and I think it could be a great educational tool. I keep saying educational tool. I keep seeing the word education, because a lot of people come in, for example, during my NASCAR streams, who watch me for Formula One or IMSA, and they're like, "Oh, they're just turning left." We all know those jokes. But if you go in iRacing and you try to compete in ovals, you will realize it's not just turning left. You can just jump in. You don't have to seriously compete. You just try it, and you realize that
Agree.
that's not that
Agree.
easy. But you have to sit in there and turn the wheel left, and then realize you're not constantly full throttle. You're not constantly just turning left. It's not that hard, like, especially when you're pack racing. Suddenly you realize how different it is, and why certain drivers like Max Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo have said they don't want to do ovals, because that's crazy. It's difficult. So
Yeah.
that their words are more into context when you just put yourself in the seat and try it a little bit in the sim. So would love to see more people in sim racing. That educational aspect is super important. I know it's just a high barrier to entry. It just costs a lot. It just does. And I
Yes.
understand there's the arcade sims, for example. You can use controller, Forza Horizon 5, Gran Turismo, and do it very casually. F123 supports controller. So definitely, you can enjoy it that way if you so wish to. I know a few people who do iRacing rookies only on controller because that's all they have, but they really just want to try iRacing and hang out with their friends. But it's just a high cost to entry, and it's very frustrating because Call of Duty CS:GO, you just need your computer and a controller or a mouse and keyboard, and that's pretty easy. Same thing with IRL motorsports, right? Think
Yeah.
stick and ball sports or soccer is super popular, especially in the United States. Baseball, football, etc. Just because you can just go to any store, pick up a baseball for whatever it costs, and a glove, or pick up a football and throw it around. Get a soccer ball and just kick it around. Anything could be a goalpost. It's just call it a day.
Yep,
But
it's true.
motorsports, you're gonna need a go-kart, all that stuff. So unfortunately, high barrier to entry, but we are seeing more people hopefully pick it up more casually too. And I think that helps a lot because a lot of people, I said, like they're very good, and it creates a community where everyone's like, oh, these are such the best. These people are so good. But like you can also be, it could be a hobby. You can sim race once a week with your friends on the phone just to hang out and catch up. You don't have to be good. iRacing does that for
Okay.
you, right? You get put in your lobby depending how many races you win, your safety rating, your I rating, things like that. So I think if we lower the cost and we kind of make it more casual and less daunting to join, we'll and get just a little bit more inclusive on just skill level alone. I think would be a huge
Mm.
success.
But you think that we, in terms of sim racing, is now opening the doors for the motorsport? If we check that part, you think now is a lot of more easy for sim racers to jump on motorsport, or you still have a big barrier?
I think there's still going to be a big barrier money wise. It's all about sponsorships, being able to pay your way to go into a race car, things like that. Regardless if it's a
Mm.
GR86, because you still need a lot of money to even just race in the GR Cup. And forget about GT3s and Formula One. You need a ton of cash, whether it's sponsors. So that sim racing cannot help you with 100%. But skill wise, there's a ton of folks who've sim raced and jumped to IRL racing. And sure, it's not just sim racing, it's not one to one identical, but it's pretty
Mhm.
close. And I think it's one of the few sports. I'm trying to think very quickly before I say something, but people will comment if they disagree with me, so they'll help our viewership ratings for this podcast. I can't think of any other sport like Madden, like that's not the same as football. NBA 2K, it's not the same. FIFA isn't the same.
It's nothing. It's not. It's not
I don't think there's
nothing.
anything.
I don't know a type of game that you need to use your skills that you can after take them the skills from
Wii
what you learn
tennis,
on a
like I
game to
don't.
the real life. No, even probably yes, yeah. But if you
Wii
play
bowling,
tennis,
like
you're
I
gonna
don't.
play. Yeah, you're gonna play Wii, but you don't have the weight. Yeah, could be probably could be in terms of movement, but no,
Maybe
I don't
I can't think
see
of
any type
anything.
of I don't see any type of sport that you could do it and do it on the virtual world and adapt a little bit. But you think
Yeah,
that even the motorsport racing drivers are now using more the sim racing as training, or you don't see that because we see Max Verstappen using a lot the sim racing for
yeah.
training and to adapt himself. But after you have Lewis Hamilton on the other side, the old school of racing that or like Sebastian Vettel, they say no, I don't want to have nothing to do with sim racing. So why that? Why they don't agree? What you think is missing there?
I think Max is an outlier. I think he just loves to race.
Okay,
This man on like he is. I want to race, and that is it in my head. I
yeah.
need to sleep, eat, and race, and that's all he's thinking about. So,
If he
I,
sleeps, because we don't know
if
if he
he sleeps,
sleeps,
I think he just
because I
loves
don't
racing,
know.
regardless of what kind
Yeah,
it is. I mean, him and Alonso during Monaco, the post race conference. They're like, "Hey, the Indy 500 starting. We have to go watch." I thought that
yeah.
was so fun. They just love racing. Yeah, and I think sim racing is definitely seen more as a hobby sometimes. So maybe they're Lewis Hamilton or whoever. Not saying they dislike sim racing because they go in the sim to practice and train, especially when they do updates to the cars. They put them in the sim in the factory. And I know you have to sign an NDA if you are going to jump into any F1 team simulator, just because they design it specifically for their car and what they're doing. You'll have to sign something to make sure you don't go tell everyone what the setup
Okay.
is. Um, and I know for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, when I've interviewed a lot of the drivers, some of them, especially GR Cup or TC America, who've never driven some of the tracks that we go to during the calendar year, they'll go on the sim so they can learn the track. And
Yeah, I have
of
that
course, it's
too. I
not one to
interview.
one, but yeah,
Yeah, I interviewed one of the guests and it was the same thing. He said that before he jump on the truck, he take it 1 week that he goes just driving and get used to the breaking points, just for the breaking points to learn where you need to break and after to adapt, because it's not the same, but is the most close you're gonna have on training. And after when you arrive there, you jump. And even for traffic, a lot of them they use iRacing to get
Yeah,
used to traffic maneuvers. That's quite interesting to
smart.
adapt themselves to go around and that's quite interesting. And in terms of sim racing, on your part, what's your favorite?
Ooh, I'm currently doing the GR86 a lot, the Buck Kicker Cup
Okay.
for the Toyota. I want to be, I jokingly say I want to be the GR86 queen. I just think it's a fun, zippy car. And gosh, I don't know. I just really enjoy it. I enjoy the tracks it goes on. And I think it really forces me to focus on the basics and nail those down very well. So
Okay.
when I do
Makes
race like
sense.
the GT3 at Daytona for the Daytona 24 or do any of the other iRacing special events for the GT3, of course, different car. But then you're like, okay, I understand what's going on with the oversteer, understeer. I understand what's a little bit more fine tunedly for the basics, and then I
Okay.
can get a little bit better. But yeah, I've just been enjoying it. It's a nice pace comparatively to everyone doing the road cars. And you don't get, I mean, you do get murdered as much, but I mean, there's no GTP trying to murder you on every apex because it's just one
Okay.
it's just one type of
It's just the
car.
same. Yeah, exactly.
Everyone's
No,
driving a GR86.
exactly. It's a little bit, and when it's the same type of car like the MX-5, a lot of people like to enjoy the MX-5 Cups
Yeah.
or the Clio Cup too, because it's the same type of car. It's just based on more on the skill than on different types of car and the balance of performance and the other categories. So you focus more on only on actual race and not go around and take care. But now on the script that I sent you, we will talk about the power of women on sim racing and motorsport, and that is what I want to focus with us. So, what is your point of view in the part of females in sim racing?
That there should be more. And then everyone's
Should
going
be
to be
more.
like, but it's the
I
same.
know.
It's
I
the same
agree.
question.
I agree
The same
because I
question
think
with women in motorsport too.
yeah. And
It's
you think in terms of sport, even motorsport, you think that barrier should not exist because it's a physical sport, but not the same thing as you play football or basketball, females against males. So why that barrier still exists? Because I think in terms of women's size for motorsport, they are more light, so
mhm.
they're going to be how we're going to say helping on the balance of the performance of the car, because you can always put more weight. So I think they already proved themselves they are fast. You have the queen of Nordschleife that was
Oh
a
gosh.
lady. You have a girl now
Schmitz,
in
yeah.
NASCAR that is going and killing a lot of guys. So what's missing? What we should do more to promote more females?
Sure. I mean, similarly to a lot of video games when I was growing up, I mean, it starts from the very beginning systemically, right? Maybe this is the way my parents thought, but I think this is an easy trap to fall into where I was climbing trees and my mom would be like, girls don't climb trees. What are you doing? Girls don't, you're supposed to sit, your brother's supposed to climb, your brother's allowed to climb trees. You're supposed to sit down here with me and like go on the monkey bars or something. So
Yeah,
um it just starts like that. So it's like, oh, my son wants to go in the go-karting. I'm going to put my little girl into something different. And it starts like that. And then I've talked to some fathers and mothers who've put their daughters into go-karting, and they they've heard, I mean, let's say their daughter's the only one in the go-karting race, they'll hear fathers tell their sons, don't get beat by a girl, or like make sure you pass her, or like make sure, like it's just like these things that are still stuck in our heads as a society, like that gender in sports. And to your point, yeah, I think, yeah, motorsports is physical, but a car doesn't care if you're a man or a woman, right? A
exactly.
car
That's
just
that's
cares what your breaking point is. Like, you drive the car regardless of how you do it. And I think it's one of the few sports, again, that, I mean, gender 100% does not matter regardless, because it just depends how you drive the car and how you prepare or train yourself, etc. So
I agree
um
because we have put when the you have, for example, Raleigh, Michelle Monton, when she went head to head with the same car against the best, she won. Of course, it exists always lucky when you win a championship, depending if the other ones are not performing well. But on that year, she was the fastest. She won a lot of rallies and she kicked the head from everyone around. So I think when they have the chance, they've improved themselves. and they've been showing that they are capable. So I don't understand why we don't give the chance, because there are so many great drivers outside, and they don't get the chance. And in terms of sim racing, the same thing. I don't see people promoting sim racing girls, and so a lot of girls, they are really fast. They are really fast. They adapt themselves
Hmm.
really well, and I don't know why we have this mentality. So what do you think we can break? How can we break the mentality of the next generation in terms of females in sim racing, for example?
Sure. I mean, it's just having these conversations and understanding. Like, so if you're listening to this conversation right now, and you're like, "Oh, that's a good point." I mean, if you know someone who's younger, or just, I mean, someone who's a woman, and they're like, "Hey, I'm looking for a new hobby. What are we doing today?" I mean, nieces or nephews, you'd be like, "Oh, like jump in my sim break," or like, "Let's play this video game." Because when I was a kid, the first inclination as a girl, my siblings, excuse me, my family wouldn't be like, "Hey, play video games." That was given to my brother. The inclination for me was like, come hang out in the kitchen and talk with your mom, or like come hang out with us and like go play outside and do something else. My brother was given the video games because the boys went downstairs and played video games. Um, that's just what it was. So like, just, I don't know, just do exactly what you would do with your sons or nephews. Just be like, hey, you want to jump in the sim rig? You want to try it out? Because kids are just naturally curious. I don't think they care what you're doing with, right? They just want to play and hang out with
Exactly.
you. So just
And
put
if
them
they
in the
have
sim
the
rig.
so, yeah, and if they have the options to start it as young, they're gonna
Yeah,
develop that. I have an idea, and I know that
exactly.
everyone gonna say to me that I'm crazy. But for example, the way that we are evolving in terms of sport, let's pick up
Hmm.
basketball. The WNBA is getting better. The professionals are getting better because they are evolving faster. That, for example, males was evolving because we had to adapt ourselves, and a lot of the barriers that happen on the basketball already been break. So technically, a female now is more easy because they already have an easy way to learn. Is more ways of learning. So I think in 5 years or 10 years, probably we're going to start having a mix NBA with rules. I don't know why. I think that slowly they're going to start incorporating, like, you have to have on the field three male, two male versus
Oh,
two. Sorry,
interesting.
three females versus
Ah,
two males, and after three males, you have always to have a mix, and I think the same gonna happen with football, because if you see the football that was played on the 50s as males was horrible. If you was looking now, you're
yeah.
gonna see, and they was playing horrible because it was what they learn and what they have around them, the competitive. So I think as soon as the females on World Cup, that's getting very good. It's going now in Australia, and you have a lot of people seeing the football is getting better. As soon as they start playing with better opponents, and start challenging themselves, they're gonna get to the level of some of the males professionals, probably better than a lot of the males professionals. So I feel the same thing on motorsport. If we're still giving them the chances, I think not going, or I think the woman F1 is important, the F1
Mhm.
uh, low category. But if they start going to the same levels on F2 on the same teams, I think they will be able to prove. I think they just need a chance, and we need to give time. You cannot expect them on the first year or second year, third year, that anyone go and jump on a car and going to be the best. They're going to beat everyone. They need to adapt themselves, and they need to learn not to adapt themselves. So I think on the next generation, I say 5 to 10 years, I think we're going to still start seeing a lot of mixed sports, and I hope in terms of motorsport that females are going to be over. I think I want to see a female in F1. I think it's possible.
I don't want to
What's your
see
thought?
one female in F1. The problem is,
Okay.
here's the I say that because, right, you obviously want to see more.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
the problem is, if you have one woman in Formula One, she somehow is now going to represent all women. As example, like for example, like Nicholas Latifi didn't represent all men when he was P20. He was just
yeah,
Nicholas Latifi,
exactly.
and people said what they said. But if you have one woman and she does P20 one race and then P15, then everyone's like, oh, women cannot drive, not Ashley Vandelay cannot drive, right? It becomes that she
Mm.
represents all women all of a sudden. And it frustrates me to the point where currently women either have to be very, very good, or it's like we're not considered. Like Haley Deegan, I think is a great racer, and she's been really successful in SRX, and then in trucks she's had a difficult season, sometimes gets dumped, sometimes does very well. So I think she's somewhere in the mid for the points, and I think that's great. She's beating out half the men, and then she's right in the middle. But to a lot of people online, that's not good enough. Like, she's not that good of a driver. She has to be P1. I was like, why? Why does she have to be P1? Like, why do we have to, why can't we just race? Why can't we just be in there? Why can't
Exactly.
we just take up space?
Yeah, but it's even on that. Is other thing that what, for example, bother me is if you have a female driver, I would like to see more brands dedicated to females supporting that drivers too. And you don't see
Agree.
them. That brands they often they go to other ways of supporting, but they don't support the driver in a way that you support. Is that financial, giving them sponsors to put on a car? So I don't know. It's missing something there, and in I don't know. It's missing something because was one Twitter that I want to talk to that you put
Sure.
on when you went to Spa. It was quite funny. It was when you went to Spa. You put about the girls being now this F1 fanatic. Girls go fanatic about the drivers, and you comparing the same way to Valentin Rossi. And before Spa, I went with my wife to Brandach. Was Brandach, and we felt the same thing. Was so many. As soon as because it was the first podium, as soon as he went to the first podium, was people running to see Valentino Rossi, and I don't know. I felt what you say, what you mean. That guys was like going on the knees, like praying Valentino Rossi, and it's the same behavior that you see on a female. But after we on Twitter or wherever we go, oh, why you do these type of things when we do the same thing? So it was quite funny. It was really funny when you comment about that one. And Christina was speaking about that one too when she saw everyone go so crazy about Valentino Rossi. And as soon as Valentino Rossi was driving, everyone was going and pack the truck, want to see him driving, and men's almost shouting and go Valentino, Valentino as soon as he was passing. I think, come on, it was quite funny. But what is your point of view about these female and out this young generation of females are boarding F1 and all these Twitch accounts and everything? What do you think about that?
It's awesome. I mean, women drive a lot of fandoms. I mean, if you think about music, if you think about art, a lot of women are the ones making up the groups. Like, hey, let's get together and talk about this, leading it, making the purchasing decisions, buying the merchandise for groups. And obviously, Valentino Rossi, we understand he's a goat of his own. We love Valentino Rossi,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
why is
exactly.
it fair that men can go to soccer games, football games, scream their heads off, insult players, like make up these terrible, like, and I understand. I've seen UK chants during football
I
matches,
know, I know.
paint their faces, go bananas, but God forbid like a woman does. It's just a different type of fandom, and we celebrate our favorite athletes in different ways and we appreciate them in different ways. Now, no way is completely right or wrong. There are extremes, don't get me wrong. I understand from both sides of the fandom. Like, you shouldn't be yelling terrible insults and you shouldn't be also sexualizing drivers and players too much. But
Exactly.
um both fandoms have their pros and cons. Like, we're just people. Like, at some point we're just, you just label them as people. But yeah, women should be express their fandom in any way they want. And I hate the notion, oh my god, you've started me on this tangent. A lot of that the young flares like think the drivers are cute or whatever. It's like, great, who cares? Awesome. And then they watch the race for 2 hours while the cute driver's wearing a helmet that they can't see him in. We've just increased the viewership of your favorite sport. Therefore, your favorite driver is either going to get more airtime, more money, more sponsorship deals. It's just going to help the sport overall. Maybe we'll get better merchandise because people are finally buying it because they want to support your driver. I really just see
100%.
positives all around, and I don't understand why.
Now I agree because I think people depending of the way that this new generation go and support, for example, motorsport F1 with these, like you say, like these videos about this driver is cuter than that one or whatever, but that generate views and generate interest. And sometimes F1 will arrive to people that never would arrive if it was on the old
Right.
mentality. And like you say, for example, my wife now have a t-shirt from Red Bull, have a t-shirt I think from McLaren. You just have Red Bull and McLaren. It's the only two that you
Yeah.
have. And from? Yeah, and from Valentino Rossi. Yeah, she was a big fan of Valentino Rossi. But yeah, but only now she start buying this type of t-shirts, and she loves to use them, and she loves to support. And more girls, more videos we have of talking about F1 or about any sport, more we're gonna get interest, and probably gonna arrive to more people that we would never arrive. And do the same thing with sim
Yeah.
racing. If we have a girl that's do on the stream one time a week, just a little bit of sim racing, and then people go, oh, she's looking for I don't know how these new people say cloud for whatever,
Hmm.
or what type of words you use, just because of sim racing. I think no, probably she's trying to look for something that will give her fun, and probably is providing her because of viewerships, and but you never know that probably from there she's going to develop a dream of driving more sim racing, and probably going to be good. So you don't never know. And we are blocking probably persons, or blocking girls of achieve something that they will achieve if was not blocking. So I don't know. I'm speaking a little bit too much. Sorry for that, but yeah,
Oh,
I
no,
don't
chill.
understand why we block girls on Twitch of doing F1 watch logs, or playing F1, or
Yeah.
because it's fun. It's fun. I
It's
think
just it's the
it's
same thing as anything. Just more inclusive spaces for, I mean, all the genders represented, but then you have
hmm?
races represented. I know there's been certain incidents at races of showing definitely racism and things like that, and that should not be tolerated whatsoever. And opening those doors to all kinds of fans, religions, genders, creeds, etc. You have just such a more cohesive fan group where you have creativity, where you have people who are showing you things or teaching you things about your sport in a different lens that maybe you never thought about. I follow different creators of all kinds because they talk about different things because everyone's watching the sport in a different way. So you're like, oh, that's cool. I never
Okay.
thought about that. And the more people you bring in there, just the more you realize like different things about your sport or different ways to think about certain things. And if it's not the way, and if you watch something, you're like, this isn't for me, then you just move on to someone else. That's the option. I think everyone wants to just state their opinion on the internet extremely. So it's just
Yeah,
let people be and
it's
enjoy
easy,
the sport as they want.
It's
It's
easy for
wild. I will
everyone go on
never
internet.
understand. I will never
It's easy
understand
for
people who do that.
Yeah, it's easy for people go on internet and having saying whatever they want without facing the consequences, no?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people they speak what they have, what they want, and then. But in terms of that, how are you dealing with the negativity that any of your videos receive, or every one of your streams receive?
I don't see those people in the bank when I cash my checks, so I really don't care.
Okay.
I don't.
No,
Not my
that's
problem.
true. Yeah,
I
that's
just
true. That's true. That's true. I don't, for example, because I started out doing the podcast more on audio. So and on audio is easy. I don't receiving any negativity or positivity because
mhm,
I don't see nothing. I don't see. I just see the views, and that's it. I don't. Of course, you can see a little bit from the retention where the
right.
podcast went a little bit more down, or but I don't see any negativity. Now I start doing the videos on online, and my YouTube is a little bit all over the place. I'm not very good on YouTube. I'm honest. I still need to understand. I think it's not the
YouTube is
quality of the
difficult.
videos. Yeah, but I think I need to understand how works the algorithm, probably how to put my voice. But because I'm dealing now with the chemotherapies and everything, my voice sometimes it's very deep. The other day is very narrow. Some days I have more difficult to breathe, so I speak a little bit different. So it's quite difficult to balance a little bit everything. But I put a video, and thank God YouTube block automatic. So I was speaking, and
Yeah.
we were speaking about. I think the person asked me, "Oh, everything good? Hope everything was well with your cancer and everything." Straight away, I have 3 comments of people comment about the cancer, and automatic YouTube, because it was a negative comment, block it, and
Yeah.
ask me if I want to accept it or not, and I say okay, is block. But negativity was straight away. So on the video that had
Ridiculous.
85% of retention, that was good, a small video podcast, and okay, don't have so many views, but the views that was there was really good, and I have a couple of likes. The only negativity was people coming and comment about my cancer, or about why uh, why you look so sick. For example, now I don't have hair on on the eyebrows and everything, so I'm expecting now the next comment going to be, oh, if I was you, I would shave your eyebrows. I'm already expecting so. That's why when I make my videos, I don't show my hair because it's a little bit. I'm gonna say. How we gonna say, Christina? I always can explain about the hair. It's a little bit all over the place, no. So it's just falling down from some areas.
Mhm.
So it looks like I have an island on the middle of the hair because it's growing up one part and other parts not growing up. It's a little bit weird. But I was expecting already if I because Christina said you need to put your head. Because if I want to put without my head, automatically you're gonna have some guy or someone that's gonna come with a negativity. That's why I'm asking how you deal with that negativity because I've been a little bit difficult to deal with the negativity on my part. I don't know. I think or people don't understand or people is taking this one on a different way. So I don't know how to deal with that
Yeah.
negativity. That's why I'm asking how you deal it
Yeah.
with that.
So anyone who insults someone's appearance, that's just like the lowest level in like what that's not creative. That's not like I don't know. It's just such a low bottom of the barrel. You couldn't think of anything else to insult me with because either my point is right or you're just like I made you think about something differently. Like
Mhm.
you're not listening to what I'm doing. Like you just looked and you're like this is the easiest thing that I can think of to be rude and mean. And if your first inclination is to be mean, type something rude. I just ignore that cuz who does that? Like who is not a child? Who goes to therapy? Like who does that? That's ridiculous, especially for you battling cancer. I mean, that's disgusting. Who does that? So
But a lot, a
I'm
lot.
so
First
sorry
of
you
all,
go through that. That's
no, it's
ridiculous.
okay. I think was the most funny was Reddit. So I put a podcast on Reddit, and I went to all the channels of
Hmm.
Reddit, like the Gran Turismo community, and I said, "Look, I'm doing a podcast." And I started this podcast because I was getting very sick. I was at home,
Yeah.
and I didn't have nothing to do. And I say, "Okay, let me do something with my life." And my wife said, "Let's go do a sim racing channel because you love sim racing. Why you don't invest? Even if you don't have any success, at least you are doing something." And that was
Yeah.
the beginning. And we started with a microphone on a desk where she make all the makeup. I take all the makeup away. I say, "This is my desk," and I start doing that. And now we sign a contract, some agency or
Yeah.
I don't know what to explain very well. And we have a lot of cameras, microphones, and a lot of good things coming. And was a big evolution and is good. But when I went to Reddit and I put that to an automatic, my channel from Reddit was blocked because people
Hmm.
people comment. I don't know how they can manage, but they block my Reddit, so I need to create a new Reddit because my Reddit was blocked. And when I
Yeah.
was putting, okay, guys, support this one, a lot of people saw no, or you are looking for the word cloud. You are looking for
Hmm.
cloud from your cancer. Say no, I'm just explaining that I have cancer for my appearance, and in case of you see me a little bit one day sick, one day more yellow, one
Yeah.
day it's just one day with hair, one day without hair. It's just because of that. And it's a way of me talking about something that I'm jumping because I'm doing sim racing and I'm doing this one because it's what happened in my life. I was cooking as because I was being a chef, professional chef. I was as a chef. Of course, you will not be here speaking about cancer. I was speaking probably about chef and sim racing. I was. So I don't know. I really don't know how to support myself on that how to break that bad comments and how to actually break that part of the community. That's why
Hmm.
I don't do stream. Random call sign come to my home. I think you met him in Munich. He
Hmm.
was one of the content creators. So he came here to my home because really I live quite near him, around half an hour, around London. So he came to my home. He programmed everything for the Twitch, but I'm afraid of jumping on Twitch because of that. Because I know that automatically I'm gonna jump, and I'm gonna be a day that I'm gonna be with hair or I'm gonna be more weak, turning the wheel. Because some days I think the community gonna be always jumping around, and I don't want to pass from that one. I don't know how to break that one, and I think that probably blocked me of getting better content creation or doing better
Yeah.
content. So that's why I'm asking you how you break everything, how you manage to break that and separate that negative part of the internet
Yeah.
and make your content.
You're
I
always
don't
gonna
know.
get that's the I have no like this is difficult because you're always gonna get bad comments regardless. You'll always find new people to
Yeah.
block, whatever it is. The thing that really helps me is one, I get messages from either mothers or fathers being like, "Hey, I love watching XYZ when you're on," and I show my little girl like, "Hey, like look at this streamer. She's talking about motorsports." Because just viewing that is like, oh, my parents watch a woman talk about motorsports. Like
Mm,
that's normal. Like when you put on women's
mm.
sports at the home, your kid's just like, oh, women play sports. This makes sense. Like obviously. Um, so those messages help a lot. And then even if it's just a small community, I have a few people come to me being like, hey, I really just want to sim race and hang out with the community, but I either been made fun of because I'm so bad, or like no one's willing to teach me, or I just get completely like terrible comments because I'm bad. And I appreciate your lobbies because one, someone's teaching me, no one's making fun of me, no one's insulting me, just for enjoying to sim race and just trying to learn. So stuff like that. It's just if it's one person just who might reach out, someone might also be going through something and they realize sim racing means a lot to them, and they'll listen to your story and be like, "Oh wow, that
Yeah,
makes sense,"
could
or
be,
"That helps
could
me a
be,
lot."
could be.
Yeah.
I don't know. I speak this one with Christina and don't know how to break that part of the
That
content
mentality.
creator. And yeah,
I
yeah,
my
exactly. And
best advice is
I
like you just have to do it. And if once you start and you're like, I really don't like I can't. It's your stream. You block whoever you want to block. Like
yeah,
that's the
that's true.
best
That's
part.
true.
I do
That's
not
true. That's
care.
true. That's true. That's true. And then, like you say, in the final, I was always thinking that, but I don't know. Sometimes these some comments, even I see on other content creators, principal more on other content creators. Sometimes I see comments
Mhm.
that are so sad, and like you say, because everyone have a bad day. Some people can be very
Yeah.
fast in one day, and next day they can be bad. And you saw Max Verstappen the other day. Someone put him out, and he go completely ramp on a GT3 cars and are racing, and he take the other guy off the track because he gets upset. So everyone have a bad day, and everyone have some bad racing days. But I don't know. I'm afraid. I need to break that one. Probably I need to get more confident on sim racing to jump on Twitch, because I think it's just
Yeah.
the probably the next level. Because I think podcast is doing very well, and you have such a. I'm so grateful for having so much people. Now I have opportunity to talk with you. We talk with a lot of people. Already some people from Red Bull that was working on the cars before as engineer. So it's going there more than I was expecting. But I just need to, like you say, click out that bad negativity of the people and jump to the next way.
You can
Now,
just slowly
yes,
start, maybe without a camera, a
yeah,
lot of people do, or just participate in chat and see how it goes. Because I
yeah,
also
yeah.
really,
It's
truly
what I'm
believe
doing.
your community is a reflection of you. You mold your
Okay,
community. So you're going to find supportive people. And if that's like what you encourage in your community, then you will get that community.
okay.
I would say I'm pretty strict compared to other like sim racers and F1 motorsport streamers about negative talk and things like that. You can dislike someone, but just be respectful about it. Like we're not going down this whole rabbit. Like I don't care what your opinion. Like whatever, just keep that to yourself. You can be like, oh, I really dislike Max Verstappen. I'd be like, great, and I'll be and then maybe I'll ask why, and then they'll be like, oh, I think he's a little aggressive, and I don't like how I mean, when he races, it's okay if he pushes someone off track, but when someone else races, he complains about it. I'd be like, that's a valid point. Thank you so much for sharing
That's
that.
like
Now we move
that's
on. Now
everywhere.
we're done. That's it. Now,
I
we're all
know.
done here.
When you talk about that, whenever I remember one thing because I grew up seeing Schumacher because I'm
Mhm.
34 years old, so Schumacher was the driver on that time, and everyone talking now what Verstappen is, but it was the same thing that was Schumacher when he was winning, you know. So a lot of the comments that we see now, I already hear them before, you know, in different ways. You know, was more at home because my father was speaking, or some colleagues would say. So I think that type of comments is the same one, and everyone gonna always have a favorite, and gonna always focus more on, oh, this is my favorite driver, and whatever it's gonna touch him, whatever you're gonna say against him is bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's always like this one. I think it's always our human side, so our ways of being. To finish the podcast, I go for some fire questions. Are you ready? Something really simple.
No
Nah,
pressure.
nothing.
I'm ready.
Nah. Ready? So to start it, NASCAR or IndyCar?
Ooh. Oh, rapid fire. Oh, NASCAR came to my head first.
Why NASCAR?
Gosh, it is so good, and I wish more people knew about it. It's just like a different kind of racing. It's so dramatic. There's so much going on between each of the drivers, their history. I mean, there is a lot of history in NASCAR, which is great to see between the sponsors, the start of NASCAR, how it got to where it is, excuse me, and where they race in these towns. This might be the biggest event of the year for them, and people have been working, volunteering at these racetracks generations in. I mean, Indianapolis Motor Speedway is a great example of that. That I met someone and she's like, yeah, my grandfather works here, my dad works here, and now I work here. And like, we all volunteer here and hang out. It's just as part of these communities. And the stories you can find out from people, from watching drivers win, lose, and things like that. I think it's crazy. And also the racing's just insane. I could never go on an oval. Don't put me in an oval. GT3 car, I'm like, oh yeah, I can try that one day. But oval, like,
I think it's hard too. I remember Felipe Albuquerque comment when Helio Castroneves was driving with him, because he was driving for United Autosport on the same team. And after, when he went to see Helio Castroneves the year that he won on Indy, and he said that he could not go. We cannot go on that cars. They say that they are so brave. It's so hard that we don't imagine. And now, talking about IndyCar, I have this question. It's a little bit difficult. McLaren or Alex Palou? Who you think is correct?
Ooh, who do I think is correct? From what I understand of it, I believe McLaren is correct.
Because he's very confused. I have to ask it, because he's really very confused what is happening. All of that, what's going around, he's quite confused. In terms of sim racing, in terms of games, iRacing or Assetto Corsa?
iRacing.
Why?
Personally, to me, it just makes it feels the most natural. It makes the most sense. Like, I can, when I first started in sim racing, I was like, this feels like I'm driving my daily driver. I mean, I don't have driving a car. Like, automatically, I was driving it. I was like, this feels pretty good. And now it's learning all the braking points and everything after that, how that car handles. But it just naturally, it just made the most sense to me when I first sat down in it, when I first started.
Okay. In terms of hardware, what's your favorite hardware for sim racing?
I have no preference. I don't really know. I call myself a filthy casual. So any good hardware would be lost on me, because I don't have those really finite good like skills you need to like make the hardware worth it to spend. So I have the Pro Logitech setup. I remember they gifted it to me for like a sponsorship post, and I was like, great, I'm good with this. This is my level of driving.
I tried it the other day, and I tried the other day, and quite surprising, because Logitech was the first one. Like, everyone have the Logitech as the first wheel. I think was
it's
the
good
first.
For me.
Yeah, first real wheel, but the Pro, I think is really good. I think and if you could not live with type of hardware, you could not live.
Ooh, which type of hardware could I not live without?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good question.
We can break it into parts. Let's break first in sim racing.
Sure, I appreciate that. Oh, for sim racing? Gosh, I really do think pedals make a big difference. I think when you first get into sim racing, you need to update something. Like your wheels, whatever. I mean, you want to make it good, but I think your pedals are the biggest difference. If I can upgrade pedals every so often and things like that, or keep those, that's probably the biggest one.
Okay, and not to complicate it, if it was as a content creator, with type of hardware you could not live out?
Gosh. Is my phone too much of an obvious answer? Hardware. Honestly, probably. Ooh, that is hard. I was gonna say lighting is pretty big a deal.
Yeah, it's. I didn't know nothing about lighting. Christina was the person that's been jumping and putting the lights working and everything. Thank you, Christina. Yeah, she's a little bit.
It's always something crazy.
Yeah. I'm honest. Christina is the queen on this type of things. Sometimes I put it and she starts saying to me, "Oh, it's too dark. Or we cannot see. It's too dark." But she knows how everything. Yeah, probably light. I think so. I think you're right. I think without light, we will not have a good change completely everything. You look to your background.
Yeah.
You're looking on your background. You have a purple, blue light on the background. You have that wall. So we have to adapt my background a little bit now, taking the DJ stuff to one corner, bring the stuff on another corner, start putting some lights. Yeah, but
It looks cool.
you're right. I think it's coming. Christina was a little bit skeptic on the beginning, but yeah, it's coming. She's now she's happy. No? Yeah. Okay. I hope so. Actually, I don't want to take you more time. I think it's almost 1 hour. I think was what we agree. Thank you so much for
Thank you for having me. This is so fun.
I know. I hope so. Sorry if I sometimes I speak a little bit too much, but I get a little bit. I have so much.
Not at all.
I have strong opinions, and I think sometimes our opinions are not listened. And once again, I think we need to empower, or could be the word, giving more power to females in sim racing and in the motorsport, because it's such great talent in both of parts. And I think we just are dismissing them just like you say, because it's girls, or because they're not going to be good drivers. But I hope in 5 years we have ended this discussion and we have better conditions for females in motorsport and sim racing.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much for having me.
You can always support the channel in a lot of different ways. First of all, if you see it on YouTube on video, remember, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel and comment. Leaving a comment to know what we are doing and what we can bring more to the channel is really important, and it'll help the engagement more on YouTube. If you listen us on audio, remember, just leave us a 5-star being on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and you can always scroll up when you listen to the episode and leave us a comment to know how you are doing, and helping us to understand what we can do more for you. And of course, you can always join us on the Patreon. On the Patreon we always share with Games with Cancer, so it's really important that you help us to help the channel grow up, and we can keep help Games with Cancer, and you are always bringing some little goodies there, so keep an eye open on what we have on the Patreon. And you can always use our affiliate links that Race Anywhere is one of them. Just scroll up where you listen and you're gonna have a link. Click on the link, have a good on what they are offering, and if you want to buy something, buy from our affiliate link. That will help the channel too. First of all, thank you so much to Ash to join me. I know that she's been very busy on these late months and late time. She was all the time going to come to Europe to do some work for Red Bull. After she had to go to GT Fanatec, she had to go a little bit everywhere, go indie. So thank you so much for she have a little bit 1 hour to join me on the podcast, and I really hope that you guys enjoy it. And sometimes we're talking about our struggles, but it's good to talk about our struggles with Ash to understand how she's breaking that and how she's creating one of probably the best communities that we have on sim racing. For my part is everything. On the next episode is going to be again a small jazz version with news and more news. And of course, after we're going to have MVH Studio from the UK. We're going to talk about what they are doing and what they're bringing to the sim racing game. See you guys.